Snow tapped softly against the windows of the small Queen's apartment, the kind of cold, whispering night that made everything feel heavier. Claire Whitford had just finished folding Evan's tiny pajamas when her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with an unknown number, and for a moment she considered ignoring it. It was nearly midnight, and she was exhausted from her shift at the hospital. But something, some instinct she couldn't explain, made her pick it up. The preview alone stopped her breath. "Ryan, are you staying over again tonight? Tell her you're working late like last time." At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. She blinked twice. The words didn't change. Her heart thudded painfully. Again? Like last time? Her fingers trembled as she opened the full message. "Don't worry about Claire. She won't question you. She never does." The room suddenly felt too small, too bright, too silent. The hum of the refrigerator became a roar in her ears. Claire's legs weakened, and she grabbed the edge of the counter just to stay upright. She reread the message again and again, hoping, praying for any sign this was a misunderstanding. But the sender's name appeared automatically in the thread, Alyssa Morgan, the same woman she had met twice at Ryan's company parties. The same woman who smiled too brightly, leaned too close, complimented Ryan a little too often. Claire felt something inside her crack, not loud, not dramatic. Just a clean, painful break, like a bone snapping under quiet pressure. She walked toward the bedroom where Ryan lay asleep, his breathing slow and peaceful. He looked almost innocent under the warm glow of the bedside lamp. For a moment, she simply stared at him, waiting for her heart to soften. It didn't. Instead, a chilling clarity washed over her. This wasn't the first lie. It was simply the first one she couldn't unsee. She moved silently, pulling Evan's small backpack from the closet. She folded his clothes with deliberate calm, her hands shaking only when she tucked in his favorite stuffed dinosaur. Every movement felt like lifting a stone off her chest, only to place a heavier one there. Evan shifted in his sleep as she lifted him gently. "Mommy," he whispered, half awake. "It's okay, sweetheart," she murmured, brushing his hair back. "We're going somewhere safe." Safe. A word she hadn't felt in years. She grabbed her coat, her keys, and stepped into the cold night. Snowflakes melted instantly on her warm cheeks. She didn't realize they were tears until they hit her lips. Behind her, Ryan continued sleeping. He didn't hear the door close. He didn't hear his family leaving. He didn't know the single message meant for his mistress had just detonated the life he assumed Claire would never walk away from. But he would. Soon. Very soon. The hallway outside their apartment was quiet, the kind of stillness that felt like it was holding its breath. Claire tightened her grip on Evan's small backpack as she headed toward the stairwell. She didn't dare take the elevator. The old machine groaned too loudly, and the last thing she wanted was for Ryan to wake up before she was gone. Evan clung to her shoulder, half asleep, thumb tucked near his lips. His trust made the moment heavier. Every step felt like she was tearing a seam in her own heart. Out on the street, the snow had thickened, blanketing the sidewalks in muted white. The streetlights cast a warm, buttery glow on the falling flakes, creating a softness that contrasted sharply with the storm inside her chest. Claire adjusted her coat, pulling the collar tight around Evan to shield him from the cold. She didn't have a plan. Just a destination. Away. Her phone buzzed again. Not a call, but another message. For a split second, she hoped it was an apology, a confession, anything that gave her a reason to doubt what she'd read. But the screen said, Alyssa Morgan. "Did you tell her yet? Or are you still pretending?" Claire felt her stomach drop. Whatever lingering defenses she had for Ryan collapsed instantly. He'd lied, repeatedly, comfortably, and Alyssa knew it. A passing taxi slowed as if sensing her desperation. Claire raised her hand, and the driver rolled down the window. "Where to?" he asked. She froze. Where could she go at midnight with a child, no money she controlled, and a husband who viewed everything, even their son, as something he needed to win? "Queensbridge," she finally said. "The Airbnb around the corner from the station." It wasn't much. A tiny, outdated rental she'd once used after a double shift when the trains shut down. But it was warm, safe, and anonymous. During the ride, Evan stirred. "Mommy, did Daddy do something bad?" Claire swallowed hard. "Daddy made a mistake," she whispered, "and Mommy needs some time to think." Evan nodded sleepily, accepting her answer the way children often do, simply because it came from her. When the cab stopped, Claire handed the driver cash from the emergency envelope she kept hidden in her coat. Her hands shook as she climbed out. The Airbnb looked smaller than she remembered, but tonight it felt like shelter. Inside, the heater rattled softly. The wallpaper peeled in the corners, and the couch sagged a little, but the silence was gentle, not suffocating. She laid Evan on the bed and pulled a blanket over him. He breathed deeply, peacefully, a contrast to the chaos inside her. Only once he drifted off did Claire allow herself to crumble. Her knees gave out, and she slid to the floor, covering her mouth as sobs tore through her. Months, maybe years, of swallowed pain spilled out in one long, shaking breath. Still, beneath the heartbreak, a thin thread of determination tightened. She had walked away, quietly, but not weakly. And Ryan? He had no idea what was coming. The gray light of dawn crept through the thin curtains, casting pale stripes across the worn wood floor of the Airbnb. Claire blinked awake, her body aching from having slept curled on the rug beside Evan's bed. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then everything rushed back. The messages, the snow, the cab ride, the quiet sobbing in the dark. She pushed herself up slowly. Her head throbbed, a reminder she'd barely slept, but she forced herself to stand. Evan was still curled under the blanket, hugging his stuffed dinosaur, breathing softly. The sight both soothed and broke her heart. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand, one missed call, then 5, then 12, all from Ryan, and then, "Where are you? This isn't funny, Claire. You better come back before something gets ugly." The last message made her skin crawl. It wasn't concern. It was control. Familiar, suffocating control. She turned the phone face down and headed to the small kitchenette. The Airbnb wasn't stocked with much, but she found oatmeal packets and a kettle. Her hands shook as she boiled water, the sound of bubbling water filling the silence she was trying to make sense of. When Evan woke up, he shuffled to the table, rubbing his eyes. "Mommy? Is Daddy gonna meet us here?" The question hit harder than any message Ryan had sent. "Not today, sweetheart," she said softly, setting the warm bowl in front of him. "We're just taking a little break." "Did Daddy make you sad?" he asked, voice small. Claire paused, her throat tightening. Children always saw more than adults believed. She knelt beside him. "Daddy made a choice that hurt Mommy's feelings, but you and we're going to be okay, I promise." Evan nodded slowly, accepting her reassurance, even if he didn't understand it. While he ate, Claire opened her phone again, not to check Ryan's calls, but to check her bank account. Her stomach twisted when she saw the balance. 0.00. She tried the credit card. Declined. Her pulse quickened. Ryan had cut her off. Completely. Even after discovering his affair, he still had the power to hurt her in the ways that mattered most. She felt the panic rising, squeezing her chest. She searched her pockets, finding the emergency $40 she'd used last night. That was all she had. Every dollar Ryan wanted her to need him for, he now weaponized. A knock at the door startled her. Her breath caught. Was it Ryan? Did he track her phone? Another knock, firmer. "Housekeeping," a woman called. "Just dropping off towels." Claire exhaled shakily, pressing a hand to her chest. Not him. Not yet. But she knew it was only a matter of time before he escalated. Men like Ryan didn't lose gracefully. As she closed the door, a cold realization settled over her. She wasn't just escaping a broken marriage. She was stepping into a battle she never wanted, but could no longer avoid. And Ryan? He was only getting started. Ryan Whitford woke to the shrill beep of his alarm, slapping it off with a groan. He glanced at the clock. 7:12 a.m. He was already late for a board meeting, but he reached out instinctively toward Claire's side of the bed. Empty. The sheets were cold. He frowned, annoyed rather than concerned. "Claire," he called out, expecting her to appear in the doorway with Evan on her hip, the way she usually did every morning. Silence. He swung his legs off the bed and walked into the hallway. The apartment was still, unusually so. No cartoon sounds from the TV, no clinking of breakfast bowls, no Evan giggles. Something felt off. He checked Evan's room. The dinosaur plush was gone, his small jacket missing from its hook. Ryan's irritation sharpened. "Claire, this isn't funny." He grabbed his phone. 6 unanswered calls. He tried again. Straight to voicemail. Annoyance turned into a thin thread of unease. Then, ding, a new message lit up. "Alyssa, is she still asleep, or did you sneak out early again?" His stomach dropped. He stared at the message, replaying last night. He had been careful. Always careful. He used the office phone to call Alyssa. He deleted his browser history. He never texted her directly, but Alyssa was reckless. His pulse quickened as he typed, "What did you send her?" No response. He checked the apartment again, this time with rising panic. Claire's coat was gone, her purse missing. Evan's shoes not where they should be. He opened the closet. Her scrubs were still there, but her messenger bag was gone. Jesus, Claire. He grabbed his laptop, logging into their shared bank account. He froze. She hadn't withdrawn a single dollar. But there was something worse. His own transfer locking the account was pending. He cursed under his breath. He'd set it up last week as leverage for a negotiation he'd expected. They'd been drifting. She'd been distant. He assumed she'd cling tighter if she had fewer options. He didn't expect her to leave. Another message finally came from Alyssa. "Ryan? Why aren't you answering? Did she find out?" He slammed his fist on the counter. Yes, she found out, and she took Evan. His phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from someone he didn't expect. "Mr. Whitford, this is Officer Delgado. We received a report from your wife's workplace asking us to perform a wellness check. Please return our call." His chest tightened. Claire must have seemed distressed at the hospital yesterday. Her co-workers probably sensed something was wrong. This was spiraling faster than he could control. He called the officer back immediately, forcing calm into his voice. "There's no emergency. My wife just stepped out with our son." "Sir," the officer replied evenly. "We need to speak with her directly to confirm that." Ryan clicked off before his mask cracked. He stared at the empty apartment, too quiet, too clean, missing the small signs of life Claire always brought. A cold flush ran down his spine. For the first time, Ryan realized this wasn't a tantrum. She wasn't trying to get his attention. Claire Whitford was gone, and she wasn't planning to come back. The heater in the small Airbnb sputtered as Claire sat on the edge of the sagging couch, her laptop balanced on her knees. Evan was finally napping after a morning full of questions she tried, unsuccessfully, to answer. The quiet should have comforted her, but instead, it made every sound feel too loud, too sharp. She opened her email, hoping to see a message from the hospital checking on her. Instead, the first subject line froze her blood. Notice of custody review. Immediate response required. Her vision blurred for a moment. She clicked the email with trembling hands. It was from a law firm she recognized from Ryan's company events. High-powered, corporate, aggressive. The email stated that Ryan was seeking temporary emergency custody of Evan due to concerns regarding Claire's mental stability, financial recklessness, and abrupt abandonment of the marital home. Claire covered her mouth, choking on a gasp. Mental stability, financial recklessness, abandonment. Her breath quickened. No, he wouldn't. But he would, and he did. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan this time. You left me no choice. Bring Evan home and we can avoid court. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Avoid court? No. He wanted power. He wanted control. He wanted to force her back by taking the one thing she could never live without. Evan. She tried to steady her breathing, but panic clawed up her throat. She opened the attached PDF from the email, skimming through the legal jargon until one sentence punched the air from her lungs. Mr. Whitford requests sole custody pending evaluation. Sole custody, not shared, not temporary. He wanted to take her son permanently. No, she whispered, rising abruptly, pacing the small room. Her chest tightened, breath shortening. Her heart condition, something she'd carefully managed for years, now thudded painfully. She splashed cold water on her face in the bathroom sink, gripping the edge until the trembling eased. When she returned to the laptop, a new email had arrived. From Alyssa Morgan. Subject line, "You should have stayed quiet." Claire hesitated before clicking it open. Inside was a single line. Ryan will never choose you. He never did. No threats, no details. Just cruelty, sharp, intentional, and designed to pierce. Claire swallowed hard, tears burning her eyes. She shut the laptop with a thud. Every instinct in her told her to run, to flee farther, disappear completely. But the law didn't care about panic. It cared about documentation, evidence, stability, all things she didn't have right now. A knocking sound jolted her. Not on the door, on the window. The Airbnb owner's teenage son was outside, brushing off snow from the railing. He waved politely, unaware that his tap had nearly sent Claire's heart racing out of her chest. She forced a breath. She couldn't panic. She couldn't fall apart. Not when Ryan was weaponizing every weakness she had. She sat back down, wiped her face, and whispered to the empty room, "I won't let him take my son. Whatever it takes, I won't let him." Outside, the snow kept falling, quiet but relentless, just like her resolve. The afternoon light filtered weakly through the thin curtains of the Airbnb, washing the room in a muted gray that matched the heaviness in Claire's chest. She sat at the small round table, her fingers tracing the chipped edges as she tried to steady her breath. Evan was drawing quietly on the floor, humming the tune she always sang to him at bedtime, an innocence she clung to like a lifeline. Claire opened her old laptop, hoping for something normal. Maybe a message from a coworker checking on her, maybe an update from the hospital. Instead, the screen flooded with new notifications. At the top of her inbox sat an email that made her pulse spike. Urgent, custody inquiry, formal notice. Her stomach twisted. She clicked it open with trembling hands. The letter was cold, clinical, and devastating. Ryan had filed for temporary emergency custody of Evan, citing Claire's emotional instability, unsafe separation, and financial irresponsibility. Her throat closed. Emotional instability? Because she left after discovering his affair? Because she protected their son from the shouting and manipulation? Financial irresponsibility? Ryan had cut off her access to their accounts, then blamed her for having nothing. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard, but the words remained. Mr. Whitford requests sole custodial rights pending full evaluation. Sole custody. He wasn't negotiating. He wasn't trying to talk. He was trying to erase her. A sharp crackling sound pulled her attention back to the laptop. Another incoming email. This one from Ryan's attorney. A second letter. More formal, more threatening. Failure to comply may result in immediate legal action. Her heart pounded painfully against her ribs. Evan looked up from the floor. "Mommy, are you okay?" She forced a tight smile. "I'm just reading something important, sweetheart." But she wasn't okay. She was falling apart from the inside out. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. "You took my son. This is on you. Bring him home and we don't have to involve the courts any further." Her fingers tightened around the phone. Your son? Evan wasn't a possession. He wasn't leverage. He wasn't a bargaining chip. Another buzz. This ends when you come home. Not when they talk. Not when they fix things. When she comes back, obedient, quiet, controlled. Then, one more vibration. A new message from a name that made her breath hitch. Alyssa. She hesitated before opening it. Running won't save you. Ryan always gets what he wants. The cruelty sliced straight through her. Alyssa didn't need insults. Her confidence alone was its own blade. A woman who believed she had already replaced Claire. Claire shut the laptop and pressed her palms to her forehead, fighting the urge to scream. Fear coiled around her lungs. If Ryan had filed this quickly, what else was he planning? She went to the window, watching snow fall onto the quiet street. Each flake drifted slowly, disappearing on the cold pavement. Fragile, defenseless, easily erased. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "He won't take him. Not my boy. Not ever." Her voice trembled, but beneath the fear, a spark of defiance burned. By the next morning, Claire felt as if she had aged 10 years overnight. Her eyes were raw from crying, her head throbbed with the familiar ache she usually only felt after an ER double shift, and the tight pressure in her chest warned her that her heart condition was beginning to flare. She couldn't afford that now, not when everything depended on her staying strong. But stress didn't care. She still took Evan to the small urgent care clinic near the Airbnb to check her vitals. She didn't want the hospital staff she knew to report anything back to Ryan. The urgent care waiting room buzzed with low chatter, but it felt a million miles away as she sat stiffly in the plastic chair, Evan leaning quietly against her side. A nurse finally called her name. "Claire Whitford?" Hearing her married name sent a sharp sting through her ribs, but she stood anyway. Inside the exam room, she perched on the edge of the bed while Evan played with the glove box, pretending to make balloon animals. She forced a smile at him, but when the doctor walked in, her facade cracked. He examined her quickly, glancing up with concern. "Your blood pressure is extremely high. Are you under stress?" A broken laugh escaped her. "You could say that." "Chest tightness?" She nodded. "Any dizziness?" Another nod. He leaned forward. "Claire, this isn't minor. You need rest and you need stability. If your condition escalates..." "I don't have that option." The words burst out before she could stop them. The doctor paused. "Is someone hurting you?" She inhaled sharply. "No. My husband is trying to take my son." It was the first time she'd said the words out loud. They tasted like metal and shame. The doctor's expression softened. "Do you feel safe going home?" "No," she whispered. He lowered his voice. "Do you have support? Family?" She shook her head. She didn't have anyone. Not here, not anymore. He stepped out to give her a moment. As the door clicked shut, Claire's shoulders collapsed. She buried her face in her hands, and the tears came fast. Hot, uncontrollable, the kind she'd trained herself not to cry in front of patients. Evan looked up, confused. "Mommy? Are you hurting?" She wiped her cheeks quickly. "No, baby. Mommy's just tired." He climbed into her lap, small arms wrapping around her neck. I'll protect you, he whispered. I'm big now. That single sentence shattered her. When they left the clinic, the winter air slapped her face, forcing her to breathe again. She clung to Evan's hand tightly, terrified she might lose him, not to danger but to paperwork, lies, and a man who viewed custody as a game. As they crossed the street, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Ryan. If you don't come home today, I'll make sure the judge sees what kind of mother you really are. Her steps faltered. Her fear spiked. But beneath the fear, something else flickered. Anger. Real. Deep. Steady. And it would change everything. Snowflakes clung to Claire's coat as she and Evan returned to the Airbnb. She was exhausted, both from the clinic visit and from holding herself together for Evan's sake. She unlocked the door, nudged it open, and froze. Ryan was sitting on the couch. Her heart dropped so violently she felt it in her knees. Evan squeezed her hand tighter. "Daddy," he whispered. Ryan smiled, not warmly, but with the controlled, polished expression he used in boardrooms when he wanted to intimidate someone without raising his voice. "There you are," he said calmly. "You had us all very worried." "Us?" Claire nearly laughed. He meant himself, and Alyssa. "How did you find me?" she asked, forcing her voice steady. He lifted her phone off the table. "You left your location setting on. Amateur mistake, Claire." Her stomach twisted. She hadn't even realized. Ryan stood slowly, smoothing his suit jacket, as if this were a performance he'd rehearsed. "You took my son in the middle of the night. Do you understand how that looks?" "I protected him," Claire said quietly. "From you." Ryan's expression sharpened. "Protected him? From what? A stable home? A father who actually provides?" Claire took a step back, placing herself between Ryan and Evan. "A father who cheats, manipulates, and lies." The mask fell. For a split second, rage crackled through his eyes, fast, dangerous, controlled only by pride. "You always were dramatic," he said coldly. "And fragile. That won't look good in court." Claire swallowed. "Get out, Ryan." He ignored her, kneeling to Evan's level. "Hey, buddy. Daddy's here to take you home." Evan clung to Claire, burying his face in her coat. "No. I stay with Mommy." Something in Ryan snapped. He stood abruptly and faced Claire again. "You're poisoning him against me." "I said leave." He moved closer. Too close. "If you keep this up, I'll show the judge you're unstable. You already ran off. You already made yourself look guilty. All I have to do is—" A knock at the door cut him off. Ryan stiffened. Claire's breath caught. A second knock. Louder. "Claire Whitford? This is Officer Delgado. We need to speak with you." Ryan's face went pale. Claire opened the door slightly. The officer stood there with a clipboard, another patrol car idling beside the curb. "We received a report from your workplace regarding a wellness concern," the officer said gently. "We need to confirm you and your son are safe." Ryan jumped in. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. My wife is confused and—" The officer held up his hand. "Sir, I'll speak with her directly." For the first time all day, Claire felt the tiniest sliver of safety. Ryan looked at her, fury pulsing through every inch of his expression. "This isn't over," he hissed. He brushed past her and stormed out. The officer stepped inside, giving Claire a moment to breathe. "Ma'am, are you in danger?" Her voice trembled. "Not anymore." "But he won't stop." And for the first time since she ran, she admitted the truth. She wasn't just fighting for space. She was fighting for survival. After the officers left, Claire spent several minutes just standing in the quiet apartment, her hand pressed to her chest as she tried to calm the frantic rhythm of her heartbeat. The room still felt contaminated by Ryan's presence, his cologne lingering in the air, the couch cushion indented where he'd sat like he owned the world. Evan was in the corner building a small tower of toys, blissfully unaware of the danger that had just exited the door. Claire forced a shaky breath and sank onto the worn couch, opening her laptop again. She needed to document everything. The officer told her it might matter later, but as soon as her inbox refreshed, her stomach lurched. A new message appeared, one she wished she could unsee. From Alyssa Morgan. Subject: proof of Claire's instability. Claire hesitated before clicking it, but curiosity and fear pushed her forward. The email opened to a collection of screenshots, fabricated screenshots, messages Claire had never written, threats she had never made, statements she had never typed, all crafted to look like she'd been harassing Ryan and Alyssa for months. Her lungs tightened. Her fingers hovered uselessly over the keyboard. At the bottom of the email, Alyssa had added a single line. "Tell the judge whatever you want. We both know who he'll believe." Claire's head spun. Her pulse raced so fast she felt lightheaded. This wasn't just cruelty. This wasn't just arrogance. This was calculated, coordinated, a full attack designed to make her lose Evan. She couldn't breathe. She rushed to the bathroom sink, gripping the counter as the world tilted sideways. Her heart hammered violently, too fast, too hard. She closed her eyes, counting breaths, trying to slow the rising panic. Not now! Not now! Please, not now! A soft knock on the bathroom door pulled her back. "Mommy?" Evan's small voice trembled. "Are you sick?" She steadied herself long enough to answer. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I'll be right out." But she wasn't okay. She was unraveling, and that was exactly what Ryan and Alyssa wanted. When she returned to the living room, she forced a smile, holding Evan's hand until his worry softened. Once he settled again, she reopened the laptop, her hands steadier now, not because she was less afraid, but because fear had transformed into something sharper. Determination. She typed quickly, creating a folder labeled Evidence Against Ryan. She uploaded his threatening texts, screenshots of Alyssa's emails, the custody notice showing his lies, notes documenting every incident in her own words. Her fingers moved faster with every file she saved. She wasn't going to disappear. She wasn't going to crumble. She wasn't going to let them erase her. Just as she finished, another email arrived, this time from an unexpected sender. "Claire, it's Gabriel Lawson. We need to talk. It's important." Her breath hitched. Of all the names she expected to see, his was not one of them. But maybe, just maybe, this was the shift she desperately needed. Claire stared at the name on her screen, hardly trusting her eyes. Gabriel Lawson. She hadn't spoken to him in nearly a decade, not since they drifted apart after college. Back then he was gentle, brilliant, steady in a way that made people feel safe. But he'd moved to the Upper East Side to climb the corporate legal world, and she had taken a nursing job that consumed her life. Their paths simply diverged. Why would he write to her now? Her fingers trembled as she opened the email. "Claire, I heard about what happened at the hospital. A colleague reached out worried. If you need help, legal or otherwise, call me, please. Gabriel." Her breath left her in a shaky rush, the warmth of recognition mixed with embarrassment. What could she possibly say? "Hey, Gabriel. Long time no see. I'm being hunted by my own husband, framed by his mistress, and I might lose my son." Still, something inside her stirred, a quiet memory of the one person who had never made her feel small. She hesitated, then typed back. "Can we talk?" His reply came less than a minute later. "I'm outside. I didn't want to email details. Let me know if I can come up." Claire's chest tightened. Outside? How long had he been waiting? She walked quickly to the window, pulling back the curtain just enough to see a sleek black sedan parked along the snowy curb. Gabriel stepped out, tall, composed, wrapped in a charcoal wool coat. The cold wind caught his dark hair, but nothing else about him wavered. He looked exactly like someone who wins every case he touches. She opened the door. When their eyes met, something old and familiar flickered. Trust, warmth, history she'd buried under years of surviving. "Claire," he said softly, "you look exhausted." She swallowed hard. "It's been a long week." "No," he corrected gently. "This didn't happen in a week. This looks like something you've been carrying for a long time." The accuracy of that observation nearly broke her. He stepped inside, glancing around the small, dated apartment. His expression tightened, not in judgment, but in concern. "Is he threatening you?" She nodded. "And Evan?" "He's scared." "I'm scared," she whispered. "Ryan filed for sole custody, and Alyssa, she's making fake messages, fake screenshots. They're trying to paint me as unstable." Gabriel's jaw clenched, a flash of fire in his eyes. "That's illegal. Highly illegal. And sloppy." Claire blinked. "Sloppy?" He opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. "I used to consult for Whitford Financial. I know the company. I know their lawyers, and—" He paused, meeting her eyes. "I know Ryan. Men like him think they're untouchable because no one ever challenges them." Her breath shook. "I can't win against him, Gabe. He has money, connections, influence." Gabriel stepped closer, voice low but certain. "You have me." For the first time in days, Claire felt something she thought she'd lost completely. Hope. Gabriel continued. "And I already know the first place we're going to hit him, where he never expected you to look." Claire blinked. "Where?" His eyes hardened. "His finances." Snow had begun falling harder outside, tapping softly against the thin window panes, as if urging Claire to listen, really listen, to the truth Gabriel was about to reveal. He laid a stack of documents on the small dining table, the papers crisp and stark against the worn wood. "Claire," he said quietly, "Ryan isn't just cheating on you. He's been moving money illegally." Her breath faltered. "Illegal how?" Gabriel tapped a page. "Transfers between corporate accounts and his personal cards, expense reports that don't align, withdrawals labeled as vendor payments that don't exist. And worse, some of the transactions are in your name." Claire felt the room shift. "My name? I didn't sign anything. I didn't authorize—" "I know," Gabriel cut in gently. "Which means someone forged your authorization, and forging a spouse's signature on financial documents is a criminal offense, especially when it involves corporate funds." Her knees weakened, and she gripped the back of a chair. "He's trying to set me up." "He already did," Gabriel said. "But he wasn't expecting you to have someone who understands how men like him operate." She swallowed hard. "What does this mean for the custody case?" Gabriel leaned back, eyes sharp. "It means Ryan just destroyed his own credibility. Judges don't grant sole custody to men under financial investigation, especially not when they use their spouse's identity in fraudulent activity." A wave of relief washed over her, brief, fragile. "But Claire," he added, "we need to move carefully. If Ryan realizes you know any of this, he'll escalate. Narcissists don't retreat. They attack harder." Claire rubbed her arms, trying to steady the tremor in her voice. "He already escalated. He tracked my phone, showed up here uninvited. He threatened me." Gabriel frowned. "Then this is more than a custody case? This is a safety issue?" He opened another folder, sliding it toward her. "I've drafted an incident log. You're going to document everything, dates, times, what he said, how he acted. Officers will take it seriously if there's a pattern." Claire nodded numbly. "And one more thing," Gabriel said. "Alyssa." Claire's stomach tightened. "What about her?" She's sloppy, he replied. Those fake screenshots she created? I saw at least 3 inconsistencies in her metadata. If we get a forensic tech to confirm it, she won't just lose her case. She could be facing criminal charges. A flicker of satisfaction warmed Claire's chest. Not revenge. Justice. She exhaled shakily. Gabe, I don't know how to thank you. He paused, his voice softer. You don't have to thank me. I should have stayed in your life years ago. The weight of that sentence lingered between them, warm and heavy. Before Claire could respond, a loud ping echoed from her laptop. A new email from Ryan. Her pulse spiked as she clicked it open. I know where you are. I'm giving you one more chance to bring Evan home. You don't get another. Gabriel leaned over her shoulder, face darkening. He's panicking, he muttered. Good. That means we're getting close. Claire's heart thudded in her chest. For the first time since she'd run away, she wasn't the one who felt cornered. Ryan was. The night deepened outside the Airbnb, snow drifting in slow spirals under the streetlights. Claire sat at the table, staring at Ryan's threatening email, her hands cold despite the heater buzzing loudly in the corner. Gabriel stood behind her, reading the message with a hardened jaw. He's unraveling, Gabriel said quietly. People like Ryan only send threats when they feel control slipping. Claire swallowed. He said he knows where I am. What if he comes back tonight? He won't, Gabriel assured. Not after the officers showed up. But even if he does, you won't be alone. The certainty in his voice steadied her more than he realized. Gabriel took out another folder from his briefcase. There's something else you need to see. Inside were printed emails, real ones, between Ryan and a procurement officer from his company. The subject lines made her stomach drop. Unauthorized transfers, personal reimbursements, compensation for private services. She looked up, horrified. He used company money. On Alyssa? Not just on her. Gabriel tapped another email. There are hotel receipts, private drivers, jewelry purchases, and the worst part, he listed these expenses under an R&D category to avoid detection. Claire felt the air leave her lungs. He committed fraud. Multiple counts, Gabriel confirmed. If this surfaces, Ryan will be fighting to stay out of prison, not win a custody battle. The thought was overwhelming. Part anger, part heartbreak, part vindication. He would ruin me, Claire whispered, just to protect himself. Gabriel met her eyes. Claire, he already tried. You didn't run because you were weak. You ran because you saw what he was capable of. Her breath trembled. What do we do with all this? Gabriel folded his hands. We're going to build a timeline. A clear story of deceit, manipulation, financial abuse, and endangerment. Judges don't just consider behavior toward the child. They consider the home environment. Emotional instability isn't defined by tears or fear. It's defined by the person who causes them. Claire nodded slowly. You think we can win? Gabriel shook his head. I know we can. A small knock pulled their attention. Evan peeked out from the bedroom, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Mommy? I'm scared. Is Daddy coming back? The question sliced through her. Claire crouched, pulling him into her arms. No, sweetheart. Mommy won't let anyone scare you, ever again. Evan buried his face in her shoulder, and Claire looked up at Gabriel, eyes shining not with weakness, but with rising determination. Gabriel softened. He won't get to you again, Claire. Not legally, not emotionally, and definitely not financially. She kissed Evan's forehead, whispering, We're going to be okay. When Evan returned to bed, Gabriel gathered the documents. Tomorrow morning, we take this to the right people. But tonight, you rest. Claire didn't argue. Exhaustion pressed heavily on her, but beneath it lay something unfamiliar. Strength. coiling quietly inside her chest. As Gabriel left, he paused at the door. "Claire," he said softly, "this is the beginning of his downfall." And for the first time, she believed it. Morning light spilled through the blinds in faint golden stripes, warming the Airbnb's faded wallpaper. Claire hadn't slept much, but for the first time in days, she woke with purpose rather than panic. This wasn't running anymore. This was war, and she finally had someone on her side. Gabriel pulled up in front of the building in a charcoal sedan, the kind of car that said he belonged to a world Ryan always pretended to understand. When Claire stepped outside, wrapped in her old navy coat and clutching Evan's small hand, Gabriel smiled softly. "Ready?" he asked. Claire exhaled. "Yes. Whatever happens today, I'm ready." They drove to a Manhattan office tower, a sleek glass building that reflected the winter sun like a blade. Claire felt small walking through the revolving doors, overwhelmed by the polished floors, sharp suits, and intimidating silence of the corporate lobby. Her palms were sweating. "Gabe," she whispered, "I shouldn't be here. I don't fit in this world." He glanced down at her with certainty. "Claire, you've survived things these people couldn't last a day through. You belong anywhere you choose to stand." The elevator ride was tense and silent, rising floor by floor until they stepped into a private conference room. A senior HR officer awaited them, a woman with silver hair, stern eyes, and an expression that revealed nothing. "Mr. Lawson," she greeted, "and Mrs. Whitford." Claire winced at the name but said nothing. Gabriel wasted no time. He laid out the documents. The fraudulent transfers, forged signatures, unauthorized expenses, and emails linking Ryan to multiple financial violations. The HR officer scanned the pages, her face tightening as each new detail surfaced. "This is substantial," she said finally. "Why bring this to us and not straight to law enforcement?" "Because," Gabriel replied smoothly, "your corporation deserves the opportunity to address internal misconduct before the SEC or a federal prosecutor does." Claire watched the woman's expression shift. Interest, concern, calculation. "And," Gabriel continued, "my client is currently facing legal intimidation and custodial threats from Mr. Whitford. We believe these behaviors are connected." The officer leaned back, eyes narrowing. "His custody case. He claimed his wife was unstable." Claire swallowed. "He lied. He's lying about everything." Something flickered in the woman's gaze. Sympathy, perhaps even anger. "We've had suspicions," she admitted. "Small things, inconsistencies, but nothing concrete. Until now." Gabriel nodded. "Then consider this your concrete." The HR officer tapped her pen against the table, deep in thought. "This will trigger an internal audit. If it confirms misconduct, and it appears it will, Mr. Whitford will be suspended pending investigation." Claire's breath caught. Suspended. That meant his legal advantage would crumble. "And," the officer added, "if these forged documents involve his spouse, he will face criminal exposure." Claire's heartbeat quickened. Not fear this time, relief, vindication, justice. As they left the building, Gabriel walked beside her, hands in his coat pockets, watching her carefully. "You did well," he said softly. "I didn't do anything," she murmured. "You survived him," Gabriel corrected. "And now you're fighting him. That takes more strength than you realize." Claire looked out at the city, cold, brilliant, merciless, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Control. Ryan's world was starting to crack, and she was the one making it happen. By late afternoon, Manhattan buzzed with a crackling tension that only came when corporate secrets began to leak. Claire didn't know it yet, but the first fracture in Ryan's perfect facade had already split open. She sat on the edge of the Airbnb couch, scrolling through her phone while Evan napped beside her. A notification popped up, a news alert from a local business outlet. Whitford financial executive under internal investigation. Her pulse fluttered. She clicked the headline. There was no name listed yet, but the description told her everything she needed to know. Senior executive suspected of fraudulent expense reporting, misuse of company funds, and improper personal reimbursements. It was him. It had to be him. Before she could fully absorb it, her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated but answered. A shaky voice burst through the line. "Claire, it's Megan, from Ryan's office." Claire stiffened. Megan was Alyssa's closest friend, one of the women who used to laugh too loudly at Ryan's jokes. "What do you want?" Claire asked cautiously. Megan exhaled sharply. "Look, I shouldn't be calling, but things are happening. Alyssa's losing it. She's screaming at everyone." Claire froze. "Why?" "She thinks Ryan threw her under the bus. She said he promised to protect her if anything came out, and now the audit team took her computer. They're questioning her about everything." Claire blinked, stunned. Alyssa? Being questioned? Already? Megan lowered her voice. "She's blaming you, says you set her up, says you're trying to destroy her career, but everyone in the office knows she was involved with Ryan. People saw things, heard things." "Why are you telling me this?" Claire whispered. "Because," Megan said, voice cracking, "Alyssa told me she was going to fix the problem. I don't know what she meant, but the way she said it—" "Claire, you need to be careful." Claire's skin prickled with cold fear. "Is Ryan with her?" "No, they're fighting, screaming. Security had to separate them." The image was surreal. The man who controlled every room he walked into now losing control of one woman, his own mistress. Megan continued. "Word is, the investigators found discrepancies in Alyssa's email timestamps. They think she altered files if they prove it." "She's done," Claire finished softly. "Yes, and Ryan too." Claire thanked her and hung up, heart pounding, not just from fear, but from the shift happening around her. The empire Ryan built on lies was collapsing, and Alyssa, who once stood smugly at his side, was now clawing at the debris. A message buzzed in. "Alyssa, you think this is over? I'm not going down alone." Claire inhaled sharply. Not a threat. A confession. Before she could reply, the door opened and Gabriel stepped in, snow clinging to his shoulders. "Claire," he said, catching his breath, "you need to see this." He handed her his phone. A new article, updated 5 minutes ago. Sources confirm. Executive placed on temporary leave pending full investigation. Ryan wasn't just cracking, he was falling, and the world was watching. The Airbnb felt colder that night, even with the heater humming at full strength. Claire lay beside Evan, listening to his soft breaths as sleep finally pulled him under. But her mind refused to rest. Every nerve buzzed with fear, adrenaline, and the haunting echo of Alyssa's message. "I'm not going down alone." Claire replayed the words over and over, each time feeling her stomach twist. She knew Alyssa was reckless, but desperation made reckless people dangerous. She slipped out of bed quietly, moving to the dimly lit kitchenette where Gabriel sat reviewing documents. His coat was draped over the chair, his sleeves rolled up, his expression focused in a way that made her feel not alone, for once. "You should sleep," he murmured without looking up. "I can't," she admitted, folding her arms tightly. "What if Alyssa does something insane? What if she tries to frame me again? What if she—" "Claire," Gabriel finally met her eyes. "We're ahead of them. Everything Ryan and Alyssa are doing right now is reactive. They're panicking." "I know," she whispered, "but I'm still scared." That confession hung in the air. fragile and raw. Gabriel softened. Fear means you're human. It doesn't mean you're losing. Before she could respond, a sudden pounding rattled the door. Claire's heart leapt into her throat. Evan stirred in the bedroom behind her. Gabriel stood quickly, motioning her back. Stay here, he said under his breath. He moved to the door, peering through the peephole. His jaw tightened. It's Ryan. Claire's breath hitched. No, he can't be here. But he was, and he sounded furious. Claire! Ryan's voice boomed through the hallway. Open the door or I swear! Gabriel opened it just a crack, blocking the entrance with his body. That's enough, Gabriel said calmly. Ryan shoved against the door, rage twisting his features. Who the hell are you? Get out of my way! Claire's pulse hammered. She clutched the countertop, barely holding herself together. You're trespassing, Gabriel said evenly. Leave now! Ryan sneered. This is my wife's residence. I have every right to... No, Gabriel interrupted. You don't. She has temporary residency here, and you were warned by law enforcement earlier. Another incident goes directly into the report. Ryan's eyes flicked to Claire behind Gabriel, and something unhinged flashed across his face. You think you can hide behind him? You think a few lies will save you? Alyssa already told me what you did. Claire's stomach clenched. What I did? She whispered. Ryan pushed harder against the door. You ruined her career, Claire. You ruined mine. And I'm going to make sure you regret... Stop talking. Gabriel cut in, voice steely. You're incriminating yourself. Before Ryan could reply, footsteps echoed down the hall. Officer Delgado appeared again, hand resting on his holster. Mr. Whitford, the officer said sharply. Step away from the door. You were warned. Ryan's face drained of color. This isn't over, he spat, pointing at Claire. The officer escorted him away as he continued shouting threats. The moment the hallway fell silent, Claire collapsed into a chair, her breath breaking. Gabriel knelt beside her. He's losing control. And that means... We're close, she whispered, closer than ever. After the confrontation with Ryan, the Airbnb felt suffocating, too small, too fragile to contain the storm still roaring inside Claire's chest. She sat on the couch long after Evan fell back asleep, staring at the blank wall while her fingers trembled uncontrollably. Gabriel remained nearby, working quietly at the table, giving her space but never leaving the room. That alone steadied her more than she wanted to admit. Finally, Claire whispered, Gabe, what if I can't do this? He looked up immediately. Do what? Fight him. Fight all of this. She pressed her palms to her forehead. Every time I think I'm getting stronger, something else happens. A new threat, a new email, a new lie. I feel like I'm drowning. Gabriel stood and sat beside her, not too close, just enough. Claire, listen to me. You've been surviving a war you never deserved, but you're still standing. That's not weakness. That's strength. Her voice cracked. It doesn't feel like strength. It is, he said gently. Strength isn't loud. It's not glamorous. Most of the time, it looks exactly like what you're doing. Protecting your son, telling the truth, refusing to break even when someone is trying to crush you. Claire wiped at her eyes. Every time I see Ryan, I feel like I'm back in that house again, walking on eggshells, trying not to set him off. I didn't even realize how scared I was until I left. That's what abuse does, Gabriel said softly. It hides itself until you're too exhausted to fight. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Why didn't I leave sooner? Because you loved him, Gabriel replied, and because he made you believe leaving wasn't an option. Her breath shook, but it was. And you made it, he said. You chose Evan. You chose yourself. That's what matters. For a moment, silence settled around them. Quiet, heavy, intimate. Then Gabriel reached into his briefcase. "I need to show you something else." He handed her a printed report. "The internal investigation is accelerating. The auditors found discrepancies tied directly to Ryan's login credentials. And the timestamps show he tried to alter files after the investigation started." Claire's eyes widened. "He tried to cover his tracks?" "Yes. Sloppily. They have the digital footprints." She exhaled slowly, feeling something inside her shift. Something warm, powerful. Hope. Again. "And here's more," Gabriel added. "Alyssa submitted a complaint claiming you threatened her, but the metadata shows she fabricated the messages using a spoofing app." Claire let out a shaky laugh, half disbelief, half relief. "So everything they built is falling apart." "Piece by piece," Gabriel said, "and tomorrow we file your official response to the custody petition, with everything we have." Claire looked at her hands, steady now. For the first time, she didn't feel like prey. She felt ready. She felt strong. And she whispered the words that marked the shift inside her. "Let's finish this." The next evening, Manhattan glowed under a curtain of soft snow, the kind that made even the coldest corners of the city look magical. Claire stood outside the Plaza Hotel, hugging her coat tighter as taxis glided past the shimmering entrance. She hadn't been here since her anniversary dinner with Ryan 2 years earlier, when he'd toasted to forever while secretly building a life with someone else. The irony tasted bitter now. She wasn't here for nostalgia. She was here because Gabriel requested a discreet meeting with a corporate investigator who refused to speak over email or phone. The plaza was neutral ground, luxury, privacy, and discretion wrapped in gold accents and marble floors. "Stay close," Gabriel said as he joined her on the sidewalk. He offered a reassuring smile that softened the tension in her chest. "Tonight, you'll hear something that changes everything." Inside, the lobby glowed with warm lights and soft classical music. Claire felt small again, but not powerless, not anymore. They were escorted to a private lounge, where a middle-aged woman in a tailored navy suit waited. She introduced herself as Eleanor Price, head of internal compliance at Whitford Financial. "Mrs. Whitford," Eleanor began carefully, "what I'm about to discuss is confidential, but it directly affects your case." Claire nodded, hands clasped tightly. Eleanor continued, lowering her voice. "The investigation into Ryan has uncovered severe irregularities, but that's not the worst of it. We discovered he created a shadow account under your name." Claire's stomach dropped. "A shadow account?" "An account used to hide personal transactions," Eleanor explained. "Some for Alyssa, some for himself, all unauthorized and all traceable to logins from his devices." Claire felt her throat tighten. "So he tried to frame me?" "Yes," Eleanor confirmed. "But the audit team traced the digital signatures. It's impossible that you created them." Gabriel nodded as if he already expected this. "And Alyssa?" Eleanor exhaled sharply. "She tried to delete files this morning. The attempt triggered a security alert. IT captured everything." She paused. "She panicked, threw Ryan under the bus, claimed he coerced her." Claire blinked. "Coerced her? She was the one?" "Doesn't matter," Eleanor cut in gently. "Their stories conflict. The company sees them both as liabilities now." A quiet, stunned laugh escaped Claire. Everything Ryan built, everything he used to intimidate her, was crumbling because of the lies he thought would protect him. Then Eleanor added, "Ryan doesn't know this yet, but tomorrow morning the board will place him on indefinite suspension." Claire's breath trembled. "That means—" Gabriel finished for her. "He loses his leverage, his credibility, his control." Eleanor folded her hands. "And if you file a legal complaint regarding the forged accounts, the company will fully cooperate. You won't fight this alone." Claire's vision blurred, not with fear this time, but with overwhelming relief. For years she had swallowed silence. Tonight, the world finally heard her. As they left the plaza, Gabriel draped his coat over her shoulders. "You did it, Claire." She shook her head, tears warming her cheeks. "We did it." Snow drifted around them softly, quiet, gentle, like the start of something new. And behind them, inside the Grand Hotel where Ryan once made empty promises, his downfall had officially begun. The next morning, Manhattan buzzed with the low hum of early commuters and icy wind sweeping through the avenues. But inside Whitford Financial's towering glass building, a storm far more devastating was unfolding. Ryan Whitford arrived to find 2 security guards waiting beside the turnstiles, an unusual sight for a senior executive who normally strutted through these halls like he owned the entire city. "Mr. Whitford," one guard said, "you'll need to come with us." Ryan raised a brow, forcing a smirk. Is this some kind of joke? But when he saw the HR director, Eleanor Price, standing stiffly near the elevators, the color drained from his face. "This way, Mr. Whitford," she said. They led him to a private conference room. He entered confidently at first, until he saw who else was inside. Gabrielle. And beside him, Claire. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she did not look away. She sat straight, chin lifted, her hands folded neatly, not shaking, not shrinking. Ryan's jaw tightened. "What is this?" Eleanor motioned to the chair across from Claire. "Sit." He didn't like the command, but something in Eleanor's tone told him he had no choice. Gabriel slid a folder across the table. "Ryan, we're here to discuss the findings of the internal investigation." Ryan scoffed. "This is ridiculous. Whatever lies she's feeding you—" "Enough," Eleanor snapped, colder than the winter wind outside. "We have digital evidence, timestamps, metadata, and audit trails. You misused company funds, falsified reports, and created unauthorized accounts under your wife's name." Claire looked at him then, really looked at him. "Why my name, Ryan? Why drag me into your crimes?" His nostrils flared. "Because you were supposed to be loyal." Claire's breath caught, not from pain, no, from clarity. Loyalty to him meant silence, submission, sacrifice, even if it destroyed her. Gabriel leaned forward. "Ryan, the board will vote on your suspension today. In the meantime, you're banned from corporate systems and barred from entering any company property." Ryan shot to his feet. "This is insane! You can't—" Security stepped forward. He froze. Eleanor slid another paper across the table. "And the forged signatures? The ones used to route illegal transactions under Mrs. Whitford's identity? If she files a criminal complaint, and she has every right to, we will cooperate fully." Ryan turned toward Claire, fury twisting his expression. "You're doing this to me?" Claire stood slowly, meeting his rage with something he never expected. Strength. "You did this to yourself," she said quietly. "And to me. And to our son." For a moment, Ryan looked lost, like he couldn't comprehend that the woman he'd controlled for years was no longer breakable. He lunged toward her, but a guard stepped between them, gripping his arm. "You're done here," Gabriel said firmly. As security escorted Ryan out, he shouted over his shoulder, "This isn't over, Claire. You think you won? You have no idea what I'm capable of." Claire didn't flinch, not this time. When the doors shut behind him, Eleanor turned to her. "You saved more people than yourself today." But Claire wasn't thinking about heroism. She was thinking about Evan, about freedom, about the life waiting on the other side of this battle, and for the first time, she saw victory not as a dream, but as a promise. The courthouse smelled faintly of old wood and winter coats, sterile, cold, and unforgiving. Claire sat on the hard bench outside courtroom 4B, her hands clasped tightly in her lap while Gabriel reviewed documents beside her. Evan was at a supervised playroom down the hall, unaware that the next hour could shape the rest of his life. Breathe, Gabriel murmured without looking up. I am breathing, Claire whispered. No, you're surviving. Different things. She almost smiled. The door opened, and the bailiff stepped out. Case 14672, Whitford versus Whitford. Her stomach flipped. Across the hall, Ryan approached with his lawyer, chin high, suit immaculate, but eyes wild with barely contained rage. The suspension had stripped him of the confidence he once wore like armor. Today, he looked cornered. He stopped in front of her, lips curling. This is your last chance to walk away before you embarrass yourself. Claire lifted her chin. I'm not afraid of you anymore, he scoffed. You will be. Mr. Whitford, the bailiff warned. Ryan stepped back, but the venom in his stare lingered. Inside the courtroom, the judge, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, reviewed the custody petition. Ryan's lawyer began first, painting Claire as unstable and reckless, emphasizing the night she abandoned the marital home. Claire's pulse quickened. Then Gabriel rose. Your Honor, before responding to these allegations, we'd like to enter new evidence relevant to Mr. Whitford's credibility. He handed the judge a thick folder. The room shifted as she flipped through page after page. Forged signatures, unauthorized accounts, falsified reimbursements, and internal reports from Whitford Financial confirming Ryan's suspension. Ryan shot up. Your Honor, this is irrelevant. It is entirely relevant, the judge snapped. Sit down, Mr. Whitford. Claire held her breath as Gabriel continued. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have timestamps proving the opposing party's mistress fabricated threatening messages to depict Mrs. Whitford as unstable. Gasps rippled through the room. Ryan's lawyer stammered. Your Honor, we request a recess. Denied. The judge glared at Ryan. It appears the only instability here is the environment you created. Ryan's face reddened. This is a smear campaign. She's lying. Enough, the judge barked. If you raise your voice again, I will hold you in contempt. Silence fell. Claire watched him shrink. Not physically, but in presence. For the first time, the power he wielded so effortlessly slipped from his grasp. The judge folded her hands. I've seen enough. Claire's heart pounded. In light of the evidence, Mrs. Whitford acted in the best interest of her child. The court awards temporary sole custody to Mrs. Whitford, with supervised visitation for Mr. Whitford pending further investigation. Claire gasped, a quiet, broken sound of relief. Ryan lunged to his feet. This is unfair! She tricked you! Court officers intercepted him instantly. Mr. Whitford, the judge said coldly, you should thank your attorney. Without him, today might have ended with handcuffs. Claire exhaled a trembling breath as the room emptied. Gabriel placed a steady hand over hers. You won. But she shook her head softly. No. Evan won. The days after the court ruling felt like stepping out of a burning house into clean, cold air. For the first time in years, Claire woke without dread curling in her stomach. Evan slept more soundly. The Airbnb, once a temporary hiding place, now felt like a bridge between two lives, the one she barely survived and the one she was finally allowed to build. One evening, after putting Evan to bed, Claire stepped onto the small balcony overlooking the neighborhood rooftops dusted in snow. The city glowed beneath her, streetlights pooling like gold on wet pavement, distant sirens echoing, the hum of new beginnings woven into the winter air. She wrapped her arms around herself, breathing deeply. Freedom tasted colder than she expected, but infinitely sweeter. Behind her, the balcony door slid open. You okay out here? Gabriel asked gently. She nodded. Just thinking. He stepped beside her, hands tucked into his coat pockets, giving her space, not claiming it, not invading it. That alone made her chest tighten with gratitude. You've been through hell, he said softly. Most people would have shattered. I almost did, Claire whispered. But Evan kept me going. And you. Gabriel's breath caught, visible in the icy air. "I didn't do anything extraordinary. You showed up," she said, "when no one else did." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't heavy. It was warm, full of unsaid truths. Finally, Gabriel broke it. "There's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time, but I didn't want to add to your chaos." Claire turned to him slowly. "What is it?" He looked down, a rare vulnerability in his eyes. "I cared about you back then. More than I ever said, when we drifted apart. I regretted it for years, and watching you now, fighting for yourself, for Evan, I see that the woman I admired never disappeared. She was just buried under someone who didn't deserve her." Claire's breath trembled. "Gabriel!" "You don't have to say anything," he added quickly. "I know you're healing. I know this is all new. I just needed you to know." She looked at him, really looked. The man who stood beside her at every fragile moment. The man who treated her strength like something sacred, not something to control. She stepped closer, her voice soft. "You gave me back parts of myself I thought I'd lost." Gabriel's eyes widened slightly. Then Evan's small voice called from inside. "Mommy, can you tuck me in again?" Claire smiled, brushing Gabriel's sleeve gently. "I should go." She started inside, but Gabriel touched her hand lightly. Not pulling, just grounding. "Claire," he said. She turned. "You don't have to rush, but whenever you're ready, I'll be here." Her chest warmed. This was not a promise of possession. It was a promise of patience. She nodded, then walked inside to her son. As she tucked Evan under the blankets, he whispered, "Mommy, are we safe now?" She kissed his forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. We're safe." And for the first time, she truly meant it. Spring arrived slowly in New York, first as a soft warmth in the air, then as pale green buds along the sidewalks. The city felt lighter, kinder, as if it, too, was shedding a long winter. And Claire, standing in the middle of Central Park with Evan's hand in hers, felt something she once believed she would never feel again. Peace. The custody hearing was behind her. The criminal investigation was underway. Ryan was suspended indefinitely, awaiting charges. Alyssa had confessed under pressure, her fabricated screenshots exposed as fraud. For the first time, their chaos no longer touched Claire's life. Today was different. Today was a beginning. Evan tugged her hand. "Mommy, look! He's here!" Claire turned, and her breath softened. Gabriel walked toward them wearing a navy suit that somehow made him look even calmer, steadier than usual. He held a small bouquet of white peonies, her favorite flowers, though she had never told him that aloud. "Hi," he said gently, stopping in front of her. "Hi," she echoed, a smile pulling at her lips. Evan ran to him first, wrapping his arms around Gabriel's legs. "Are you really going to stay with us forever?" Claire's heart clenched. "Evan," Gabriel knelt, his voice warm but firm. "Only if your mom wants me to, and only if you want me to." Evan nodded vigorously. "I do." Claire laughed softly, wiping a tear before it could fall. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Gabriel rose, his gaze settling on her with a tenderness that made her chest ache, in a good way this time. "Claire, I asked you to meet me here because I wanted to show you something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. "Gabriel?" "No," he said quickly, stepping closer. "Let me explain." He opened the box, not to reveal a ring, but a small silver pendant shaped like a tiny shield. "This isn't a proposal," he said softly. "Not today, not until you're ready. This is a promise that you will never fight alone again, a promise that I will choose you with a clear mind and a whole heart, and a promise that love, real love, will never feel like something you have to survive." Claire's throat tightened. She brushed her fingers against the pendant, overwhelmed by its simplicity, its meaning. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "Yes," Gabriel murmured, lifting her chin gently. "You do. After everything you lived through, you deserve a life that doesn't hurt." Evan ran between them, holding both their hands. "Can we be a family now?" Claire looked at her son, bright-eyed, hopeful, and then at the man who had stood beside her as her world fell apart and rebuilt itself piece by piece. "Yes," she said finally, voice trembling with certainty. "We can." Gabriel pressed his forehead to hers, their breaths mixing with the warm spring breeze. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just right. As they walked through Central Park, Evan skipping ahead, Gabriel's hand intertwined with hers, Claire realized something profound. Her story did not end in betrayal. Her story ended in freedom, in love, in choosing peace over fear. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving, she was living. So that's where Claire's story closes for now, my wonderful friends. And if you're still here with me at this moment, it tells me something. It tells me that somewhere in her journey, her fear, her courage, her breaking and rebuilding, something touched your heart in a way you didn't expect. And maybe, just maybe, it reminds you of something you've lived through yourself. You know, the Stoics often said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's exactly what Claire discovered. The obstacle wasn't the end of her life. It was the doorway to the life she finally deserved. Her strength didn't come from never falling apart. It came from standing up again, for herself and for her child, even when everything hurt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When Claire changed the way she saw herself, not as someone broken, but as someone worthy, her entire world shifted. And now, as we close this chapter together, I want to ask you, what part of your life is asking for that same courage? If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these healing journeys reach someone who might need them tonight.